founder and CTO of Plural, and I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of how to set up your first cluster using Plural. So the first step is you just want to navigate to the Cloud Shell tab right here, and you'll be greeted with our onboarding flow. The first step of this is actually you can choose to schedule a personalized onboarding with me. It's just going to open up a Calendly link, and you can have a handheld walkthrough of how to create your cluster and get the most out of Plural with the meeting that you can create here. But we're fairly confident right now, and we're just going to get right to it. The first thing that you'll see once you get past the scheduled onboarding flow is the option to use your own cloud or to try a free 6-hour GCP demo. The free demo is actually a really good way to just test drive the Plural experience and validate that it actually will work for your use case a little bit. But we know what Plural is all about, and we're just going to use our own cloud. Then you'll get another two options down here. One, to use our hosted Cloud Shell, or to install using the CLI locally. The difference between the two is basically the Cloud Shell is a bit faster. It will prevent you from having to download a CLI locally and also ensure that your local cloud credentials are properly configured and all of that minutia. Everything will just basically work out of the box. But if you use a CLI locally, the big advantage you'll have is you will not have to give us any of your cloud credentials. So it'll be an entirely secure and private installation that can also help with various compliance restrictions that you might be under. Once you've gone past that choice, then you can quickly create a Git repository, which I will do right now, and then give that repository a name. So I'm just going to do it. Give that name right here. And then you will choose a cloud. I'm going to just deploy onto GCP because that's relatively easy, and give a GCP service account file to use as the credentials. And then we will just need to give a cluster name, a bucket prefix, and then a subdomain. Once those have all been set up, you can then create the Cloud Shell instance, which is just going to be slowly provisioning a pod in our infrastructure to host your Cloud Shell. It can take 30 seconds, to a minute to fully provision. But you'll see it slowly come online. And then now that it's booted, we can actually proceed to install the apps that we intend to use. So we're going to make a quick little data stack here. So I'm going to choose Airbyte and then maybe Dagster for orchestration. And then let's do Metabase for visualization. And then Jupyter Hub for some notebooks. Pretty complicated little stack. Then I'm just going to go through the various inputs that it's going to ask me to fill. The defaults are going to be relatively sane, so we're just going to use those where possible. And you notice that there is this enable OIDC toggle here. For a lot of these applications with a web front end like Airbyte, Dagster, Jupyter Hub, and so on, we will actually allow you to log into those applications using your Plural login. That's the OpenID Connect flow. It's a great turnkey way to provide login security for some of these applications, and some of them are in fact insecure by default, like Airbyte and Dagster. So that's a very useful thing to have in your toolkit. Yep, and now we're going to proceed to install. And it's just going to run the Plural build and deploy commands. The Plural build command basically is going to template your entire repository for you. That's what we created a few steps back. And it's going to generate a whole lot of Helm and Terraform code, basically. That code is going to be checked into the repo, and you can actually modify it using any standard Git workflow if you wanted to. But then we'll proceed to the deploy command, which just chews on those infrastructure as code resources to actually provision all the infrastructure in your environment. The Bootstrap app specifically that you're seeing it deploy now is going to take a bit of time. That is going to be provisioning a Kubernetes cluster for the rest of all the infrastructure to use. And the unfortunate fact is the clouds will take about 15 to 25 minutes to provision that Kubernetes cluster for you. It's just kind of the intrinsic cost of starting up Kubernetes at this given moment. Awesome. As you can see, the deploy command just completed, and we already can see that there's some things that have changed in the UI. And I'm going to give you a quick tour of all the information you have available to you. So the first thing you might see is these readiness indicators next to some of the applications that are a little bit more important. That can just give you a sense of the progress Kubernetes is along in actually fully provisioning these applications. It'll take a little bit of time for it to converge. It eventually will, but this will give you a better indicator of what exactly is going on. You can also actually run the plural watch command, which I'll do right now to show a little bit more information about what's going on in that convergence process. And you can see actually the console's pods, while it's marked as not ready, are actually running. So it's probably about ready to be used right now. And you can actually run kubectl commands here as well to see that via kubectl too. So yeah, the console is in fact almost certainly healthy. And we're going to just look at a few more features that you have in the Plural CLI that might be useful. So you can actually run the Plural info command to reprint the deployment notes that you might have seen along the Plural deploy command. This can be useful for especially more low-level services like Elasticsearch or Redis, which will have some connection credentials that you might want to resurface and not have to hunt through the Git repo to find. Another very important thing that is worth calling out here is that you do have the capability of syncing the shell locally. So we'll pop that up and show you that you have just a two-step process. You run plural shell sync that will clone the repo and also configure all the encryption secrets to properly decrypt it. And then plural shell purge will delete the Cloud Shell instance in our API so that any cloud credentials that you might have saved with us can be forgotten effectively until the end of time. I actually do believe the console is ready, so let's just go ahead and jump a little bit ahead of this readiness indicator and take a look at the console. So you can actually see it running right now, and we're going to just log in with Plural using the OAuth flow I mentioned earlier and grant our consent to use it. And you can see, in fact, the full running console and dive into various applications, manage their configuration, add new users if you wanted to. You can look at the application logs, dashboards, runbooks, and so forth. And then we can do the same, and you can see the health check actually did. Go to ready while we were doing that. We can do the same with Metabase and get started with this Metabase instance. We won't go through this entire flow, but it's the standard Metabase setup flow. We can log into our Jupyter Hub. And this will slowly provision a Jupyter Hub workspace for our user. And again, that was another OIDC login flow, so we're logged in as the user I'm using for this demo. And we could just do a quick little Python command in this Jupyter Hub notebook to confirm that it is in fact a running Python notebook. And then finally, we can actually access Dagster and Airbyte. So Dagster will be another OIDC input, and you have our Dagster environment here with some initial example jobs that do effectively nothing, but can at least show you that it's a working installation. And then the Airbyte install, last but not least, which we can do the same OIDC flow to log in, go through Airbyte's quick onboarding to show you the email that they want us to give them, and then you have the ability to use Airbyte as you please. So set up any sources or destinations and start syncing data. So yeah, that's the full experience of creating a pretty complicated data stack that covers effectively all the different touch points you'd want for a data engineering organization, all in really quite a short amount of time. So I hope that was helpful for you guys, and feel free to hit us up on Discord if you have any other questions.